पर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सलवात अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद वाजिल फरजहुम. To start the program, I'm going to call upon Nail Muhammad to please come and recite the tilawat of the Quran Sharif. And I apologize to Nail because we had his name incorrectly spelled on the poster. So apologies for that, Nail. Inshallah, we'll get it corrected. Okay? Par Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
Salawat. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي أنزل على عبده الكتاب ولم يجعل له عوجا قيما لينذر بأسا شديدا من لدنه ويبشر المؤمنين الذين يعملون الصالحات أن لهم أجرا حسنا ماكثين فيه أبدا وينذر الذين قالوا اتخذ الله ولدا ما لهم به من علم ولا لآبائهم كبرت كلمة تخرج من أفواههم إن يقولون إلا كذبا. All praise for Allah who has revealed the book to his servants, allowing no crookedness in it, making it perfectly upright to warn the disbelievers of a severe torment from him, to give good news to the believers who do good that they will have a fine reward, in which they will remain forever, and to warn those who claim Allah has offspring. They have no knowledge of this, nor did their forefathers. What a terrible claim that comes out of their mouth. They say nothing but lies. Salawat.
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Jazakallah khair, Nail. Again, apologies for the miscorrect spelling of your name in the poster. Now I'd like to call upon Jafar Ali Beg to please come and recite as-salam for us. Par Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
Salawat.
Allah.
अकबर तुम्हें मालूम है क्या मांग रहे हो तुम बाप से मरने की रज़ा मांग रहे हो अकबर तुम्हें मालूम है क्या मांग रहे हो तुम बाप से मरने की रज़ा मांग रहे हो इस आलम गुर्बत में तुम्हें जाने दूं कैसे इस दश्त मुसीबत में तुम्हें जाने दूं कैसे इस वक्त क़यामत में तुम्हें जाने दूं कैसे ए लाल जो तुम इज़्न वेगा मांग रहे हो तुम बाप से मरने की रज़ा मांग रहे हो अकबर तुम्हें मालूम है क्या मांग रहे हो तुम बाप से मरने की रज़ा मांग रहे हो। क्या गुजरेगी इस बाप के दिल पर नहीं सोचा। तुमने ये मेरी जोली अकबर नहीं सोचा। मर जाऊंगा मैं तुझसे बिछड़ कर नहीं सोचा। तुम मुझसे ज़ईफ़ी का आसा मांग रहे हो। तुम बाप से मरने की रज़ा मांग रहे हो। अकबर तुम्हें मालूम है क्या मांग रहे हो। तुम बाप से मरने की रज़ा मांग रहे हो। दिल रोता है नजरों से अगर दूर हो बेटा। किस तरह जुदाई तेरी मंजूर हो बेटा। तुम ही मेरी आँखें हो मैं नूर हो बेटा। मुझसे मेरी आँखों की ज़िया मांग रहे हो। तुम बाप से मरने की रज़ा मांग रहे हो। अकबर तुम्हें मालूम है क्या मांग रहे हो। तुम बाप से मरने की रज़ा मांग रहे हो। दुनिया से गए जिस घड़ी महबूब खुदा का। नाना की ज़ियारत को तड़पता था नवासा। ए लाल तुझे इसलिए खालिक से था मांगा। मकबूल हुई मैं दुआ मांग रहे हो। तुम बाप से मरने की रज़ा मांग रहे हो। अकबर तुम्हें मालूम है क्या मांग रहे हो। तुम बाप से मरने की रज़ा मांग रहे हो। इस्लाम पे खुद अपना लहू रन में बहाओ। सीने पे सिना शान से मैदान में खाओ। तस्वीर पैगंबर की तहे खाक में लाओ। क्या इसलिए मरने की रज़ा मांग रहे हो। तुम बाप से मरने की रज़ा मांग रहे हो। अकबर तुम्हें मालूम है क्या मांग रहे हो। तुम बाप से मरने की रज़ा मांग रहे हो। सलावत।
पर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सलवात अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद वाजिल फरजहुम जज़ाकल्लाह खैर जाफ़र. Please recite a loud salawat for the tawfiqat of Jafar. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Now I'd like to request Sister Madhiya Basi to please come and recite a speech. Sister, there must be a mic already set up for you in the sister side. So if you can please check and see if you are able to, if the audio is working there. Please recite al-salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum.
Assalamu alaikum. Just a correction before I start. My name is Madiha Jafri, not Madiha Vasi. Okay. Did we ever wonder why Imam Hussain gave his blood in the battlefields of Karbala? It was for Islah. Islah means reformation, and that is my topic for today. Islah's English translation is to reform, which here means to put something in a better form or condition than it was before. In the words of Imam Hussain, I'm seeking reformation for the nation of Islam. Imam Hussain did not intend this great revolution for something as useless as a passion project or to shine the light of popularity to himself, nor did he undertake to create more mischief and oppression. Rather, he moved out to reform the condition of the Ummah, so that he may establish social justice to the people and end the humiliation that they were subjected to. Imam Hussain had set a mission of Islam to establish the highest possible form of justice and equality, while also destroying corruption and humiliation, which was at the maximum level of its time, with the conclusion that life may be established on the foundation of love and brotherhood according to Allah's wish. Imam Hussain thought this cause was worth sacrificing himself and his entire family. In our society, our principal teachings are being destroyed in such a manner that they now need to be reformed. To do Islah is very important to us in this day and age. I would like to point out a couple aspects of Islah out. My first point is our religious responsibilities. Islam being the best and most complete religion there is, fulfilling our religious responsibilities will most certainly bring us closer to Islam. Some of the actions that can bring Islam into our life do not have to be big, because it is the small which makes big and the big that makes a difference. So things like praying on time, wearing hijab, being active and not lazy, or something as simple as fostering an environment of love, respect, and brotherhood in our homes and with our family and friends. It is also our religious responsibility to uphold and defend the name of Prophet Muhammad and the Ahlul Bayt by discussing their merits and virtues among our peers. Another way to do Islah is meriting our social responsibilities. We can achieve Islah in our society by promoting our justice in our social circles in such ways as these following three. My first point is unity. During the time of Imam Hussain, the Umayyads spread discord and conflict among the Muslims. Today's world is no different. There are so many TV and YouTube channels that spread disunity among the Muslims. We should create awareness for those and try and promote unity amongst Muslims despite the differences within us. In the time of Imam Hussain, the Umayyads destroyed justice and equity that Islam had announced because it gave preference to Arabs over non-Arabs. In the eyes of Allah, only the one who is more pious has more value. We should identify the sources of such discrimination and work towards promoting equality and freedom for all. My last point is standing up for social justice. It is our responsibilities to speak up when we see discrimination, intimidation, humiliation, and destruction of our social fabric in our society. We also have a responsibility to do so in an utmost respectful and assertive manner. May Allah grant us the courage to uphold the mission of Islam, which Imam Hussain gave his and his family's Ansars bled for. Ameen. Salawat.
Please recite a loud salawat for all of our reciters. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I do apologize for the AV challenges that we're having today. Inshallah, we will get them rectified by tomorrow. Now I'd like to beginning with the program. I'd like to call upon Moulana Zain to please come. We will provide more updates on the timing of the Majlis right after his lecture, but please recite a loud salawat. Allah. Hello?
Please cite Surah Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين صلوات. It's good or? Good now? Okay. So before we start, I guess I want to thank all the people participating in these majalis, all the organizers who have been putting hard work, and it's really a tawfiq, a blessing of Allah that He gives us this opportunity to be able to serve His cause in this way. And I feel myself blessed as well to be able to address you and to be able to take part in this very, very holy and very, very amazing mission that Imam Hussain has. Salawat. So we had been talking about enemies, and we had been talking about shaitan in particular. And shaitan is our arch enemy, our main enemy, our sworn enemy. And we're talking about the different tricks that he plays on us and the different ways in which he tries to misguide us. Okay. So for example, we said that he makes us forget our purpose. We talked about our purpose as human beings. And shaitan, he wants to make us forget that purpose and concentrate only on this world and forget that we are supposed to be, beings who are higher than this world. We're supposed to be beings who are, disconnected from this world, right? But shaitan wants us to make us busy with this world. Or for example, he wants to make us feel hopeless, make us feel that, okay, this path is not for me, this path is for those people in the hawza or those, companions, but I can't do it, okay. He wants to make us have this feeling of hopelessness, right? Which we said is not true, that this, the earth is for Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is everywhere, okay? And whoever strives for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no matter where he is or she is, Allah's help is there for them and they will be successful. So what is important is that we do our responsibility, no matter where we are, no matter what time, okay? And inshallah, that success is there for us. Or for example, he makes us fear, right? To feel fearful. So now that we want to go on the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we know a certain thing is our responsibility. Shaitan tries to make us fear, okay? Fear the people, okay? Fear poverty, okay? Different types of fear, Shaitan tries to make us fearful of going on the path. Or another trick that he plays on us is he makes things seem beautiful to us. Things that are evil, things that are sins, okay? He makes those things seem beautiful in our eyes. Okay, so that's another trick of Shaitan. And the last trick that we talked about yesterday was that he creates conflicts between us. He wants us to have conflicts and be busy with these conflicts, gain sins through these conflicts, right? Because when there are conflicts, things are said, things are done that break people's hearts, that upset people. There's insults, all these things. Or ill is spoken of other people, so it counts as ghiba, right? So he wants there to be conflicts between the believers. So today, inshallah, will be the last day we talk about Shaitan, and then from tomorrow on, we'll move on to the other enemies that we have. So now, today what we want to do is look a little bit at his method, the method that Shaitan uses to misguide us, and also then talk about how can we protect our own selves from Shaitan. Okay? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So now, Shaitan, we're told that he's, him and his, supporters, the other shayateen, they see us from where we don't see them. Okay, Shaitan has said that he'll come to us from our front and our back and our sides. So we have to be aware. We have to be very careful that we don't fall under his traps. Okay, we have to keep in mind, right? He has, thousands of years of experience, and we don't, right? We are, to a large extent unaware of how he, tries to trick us and all these things. And there are some, very scary, stories about people as well. Perhaps you've heard those in your own life, how they were even scholars, very, very good people, and Shaitan basically made them fall. Or if you look at the, stories of people during the times of the Ahlul Bayt, that during the Prophet's time, they were, one of the foremost Sahaba. Then during Imam Ali's time, when Imam Ali became the leader, when he became the governor, okay, the Khalifa, the same people stood up against him and fought against him, right? Or even in Karbala, we had people who were there to kill Imam Hussein, but they were fighting on the side of Imam Ali when Imam Ali was alive, right? So you see that people change, and Shaitan, this is what he can do. So now we have to think about our own selves, right? We don't want to just look at history and be like, oh, those people, they're so bad. Well, yeah, they did something that they weren't supposed to do, they failed. But the main question is that, okay, what about me? Will I be like them as well? Okay. Can it be the case that, I am, inshallah, on the path right now, but later on, I turn back? And that possibility is there for all of us, right? Except for those people who we talked about being the mukhlasin, that Allah has purified them himself. Everyone is, can become under the influence of Shaitan. Okay. So this fear should always be there within us that, what if Shaitan misguides me? Okay. We pray to Allah that, we be of those that when we are dying, we die on the path of Islam, we die on the truth, right? And it's a dua that inshallah we should make for ourselves, we should make for our children, okay? But, we have to be really careful that we don't fall in the traps of Shaitan. Some things that we can do is what we talked about yesterday, muhasaba, doing hisab. Every day I'm looking back at my day. Okay, every night I'm looking back at my day, looking at the actions I have done. Were there sins that were committed? Were there mistakes that were made? Okay, if that was the case, then I look at that, I make an intention not to do that again, and I ask Allah for forgiveness. And if there were actions that were done that were, good actions, then, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to increase those good actions. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for letting us, allowing us to do those actions. Okay? And this is one thing that we can do to make sure that we don't fall in the traps of Shaitan. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now to look at how shaitan comes to us and how he tries to misguide us, in a little bit more detail, inshallah, we look at the following verse of the Holy Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah 14, verse number 22, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala quotes shaitan as saying this, okay? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وقال الشيطان, and shaitan, he says, لما قضي الأمر, when everything is done, right? So it's the day of judgment. Judgment has been handed out. Those who were supposed to go to heaven, they are going to heaven. Those who are going to hell, they are going to hell. And shaitan says this now. إن الله وعدكم وعد الحق, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, shaitan is saying, he promised you, and his promise was haqq, his promise was true. The day of judgment has happened now, right? The religion was true, the prophets were true. You were supposed to disconnect from this world. You were supposed to not go after this dunya. You're supposed to not go after sins, okay? You're supposed to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only, okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised you, and his promise was true. وَوَعَدْتُكُمْ فَأَخْلَفْتُكُمْ, and I promised you as well, right? I promised you that, okay, just go after this dunya, these pleasures are the only thing that matter, okay? Go after this sin, it's fine, you can ask for forgiveness later, okay? Before you die, go to Hajj and everything will be forgiven. I promised you, but I went against my promise. Okay, my promise was a false promise. Then he continues, وَمَا كَانَ لِيَ عَلَيْكُمْ مِنْ سُلْطَانٍ, but I had no authority over you. Right? It wasn't the case that I forced you to do these things. I had no authority over you. إِلَّا أَنْ دَعَوْتُكُمْ فَاسْتَجَبْتُمْ لِي, except that I called you, okay? I called you towards something and you accepted my call, right? So I didn't force you to do anything. I called you and you were the one who accepted my call. فَلَا تَلُومُونِي وَلُومُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ, so don't you blame me, blame your own selves, right? I am not to blame here. I just called you, but you, out of your own free will, you followed me, right? So don't blame me on this day. Blame your own selves. And the verse continues, inshallah, the verse is 22. You can look at it yourselves. But the point that we want to make over here is this, that shaitan, how he misguides us, how much, the power that he has is just this, that he calls us towards something. Now it's up to us whether we want to accept that call or whether we want to reject that call, right? So in our lives then, how it happens is this, that the thoughts come to us from shaitan. He has that authority that he can give us these ideas, okay? And the idea coming in our mind of a sin, for example, is not a sin in itself, right? So let's say I'm going through my day-to-day life, the idea comes of a sin. That is not a sin. But now if I pursue that idea, if I go after that idea, right? If I continue going down that train of thought, and then convert that into action, okay, now that would be a sin. So shaitan, all he does is he calls. And he knows, our weak points as well. He knows what to call us towards. He knows the desires we have. He knows the fears we have. All these things, right? So he calls us towards these things. And now it's up to us whether we want to accept that call or reject it, right? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So now we are faced with this enemy who knows us, very well. He has experience. He knows our weak points. And now he's calling us towards him, right? How do we protect ourselves? It seems very difficult that, we're against an enemy who is very experienced, right? So inshallah, we look at a few verses of the Quran and try to come up with a few points that we can follow so that we are, inshallah, protected from the shaitan. So in surah number 7, verse 201, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا إِذَا مَسَّهُمْ طَائِفٌ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ تَذَكَّرُوا فَإِذَا هُمْ مُبْصِرُونَ, that those who have taqwa, those who are people who have taqwa, when a thought visits them from shaitan, they remember and they see. They come to the truth, the right way, right? So this thought comes from shaitan. These people are such that right away they will remember that this is not the right way. I need to not follow him here, okay? And right away they will be able to get out of his traps. So over here, what we have to, kind of focus on is the word "Inna ladina taqu," right? Those who are pious, those who are muttaqi, those who have this quality within themselves of taqwa. Now, what is taqwa? Taqwa is basically being aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our day-to-day life, right? And having that quality within us, that when a chance comes to sin, okay, this quality is there that prevents us from that. We remember that, okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want me to do this sin. And when the wajibat of our, of the religion are there, then taqwa is such that the person always goes after these wajibat as well. So now the first thing that we need to then cultivate within ourselves is taqwa. That if we have taqwa, then to some extent, we'll be saved from the attacks of shaitan. That when these attacks come, this quality within us, it will help us overcome shaitan. Now taqwa has levels as well, right? It's not just that either somebody has taqwa or somebody doesn't have taqwa. No, it has levels, right? So when we start on the path, we are at the bottom level of taqwa. And inshallah, as we try to stop sins, if we try to go on the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, try to do all our wajibat, then taqwa increases and it becomes more strong within us. And inshallah, the road is open for us to become higher and higher, like the high companions of the Imams and the Prophet. And inshallah, we go higher and higher, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So next verse that we want to look at is from Surah 41, verse 36. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإما ينزغنك من الشيطان نزغ فاستعذ بالله إنه هو السميع العليم. That if an evil thought comes to you from shaitan, okay, seek protection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, seek protection with Allah. Innahu huwa as-sami'ul alim. That certainly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who is as-sami'. He hears and He is alim. He knows, right? So now when we seek protection with Him, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He hears and He knows. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, He will protect us if we seek protection from Him. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So now this idea is very important, right? We have to know our capacity. It can be the case that I think all of a sudden that, okay, I heard these majalis, I know how he's going to trick me, and I'm going to watch out all on my own, right? Shaitan, he has a lot of experience, as we said, and he will find ways to misguide us such that, we won't even see him coming, basically. So here we need protection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a very scary hadith that I heard from one of my teachers. Inshallah, I'll share that with you. And the hadith goes as such that shaitan, sometimes he trains somebody, okay, and somebody is basically becoming a scholar, and they're learning, but they're really under the training of shaitan, and they don't even know until they reach a station where they have knowledge, people accept them, okay. And here shaitan tells that person to do kufr. Okay, and that person does kufr. Right? So now the person, he thought that he was on the right path, but he was really under the control of shaitan. And shaitan made him influential. And at that moment, shaitan made him turn. And because of that, he ended up misguiding a lot of people. Okay. So it's something very scary. It's something that we have to be really, really aware of. Okay. So here we really need the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That without Allah's protection, without His help, okay, it's very difficult to be able to overcome this enemy that we have. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And there's other verses in the Quran that point towards this as well. For example, Surah 16, verse 98 to 100. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَإِذَا قَرَأْتَ الْقُرْآنَ فَاسْتَئِذْ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. That when you recite the Quran, okay, seek protection from the shaitan with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? Seek protection with Allah from shaitan. So that now that we are reciting the Quran, it shouldn't be the case that shaitan makes us misunderstand the Quran. Take something else to be the interpretation of the Quran. Right? إِنَّهُ لَيْسَ لَهُ سُلْطَانٌ عَلَى الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَلَى رَبِّهِمْ يَتَوَكَّلُونَ. That he doesn't have any sway, he doesn't have any authority over those who believe and they rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They have tawakkul upon Allah. Right? So now if we believe, we've entered belief properly, where we accept in our minds, in our hearts, and we're also trying to be on the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In our actions, this belief is showing in our actions as well. And we rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? We try our best. We try to make sure that we're not following shaitan. We try to make sure that all the actions that we're supposed to do, we're doing those. And then we rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His help. Okay, we say that, oh Allah, I'm doing my best. Now you come and you help me, inshallah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that إِنَّهُ لَيْسَ لَهُ سُلْطَانٌ upon these people. That shaitan doesn't have sway, he doesn't have authority upon people who are properly on the path and they have tawakkul on Allah. They rely on Allah. إِنَّمَا السُّلْطَانُهُ عَلَى الَّذِينَ يَتَوَلَّوْنَهُ وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ بِهِ مُشْرِكُونَ. That his authority, his sway is only upon those people who have taken him as his guardian, right? Who listen to him, who go and follow his footsteps. Instead of being under Allah's command, they are under shaitan's command. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ بِهِ مُشْرِكُونَ. And they take him as a sharik to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? That they take shaitan to be a partner to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now what does that mean? Does that mean that they pray to shaitan, they worship shaitan? So over here, that can be one meaning. But really what it means is that in following who they follow, right? Instead of following Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they follow shaitan instead. Right? That this is shirk not in worship, but shirk in obedience. That instead of doing obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're under the obedience of shaitan. So they have taken shaitan as a sharik, as a partner to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So the next verse that kind of points to this idea that we need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for us to be successful in defeating shaitan is the following verse. So it's Surah 24, verse 21. Ya ayyuhal ladina amanu la tattabi'u khutuwat ash-shaytan. O you who believe, do not follow the khutuwat, the footsteps of shaitan. Right? Shaitan, he incites us. Don't follow that. وَمَنْ يَتَّبِعْ خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ فَإِنَّهُ يَأْمُرُ بِالْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ. And whoever follows the khutuwat of shaitan, the ideas of shaitan, then certainly know that he commands towards indecency and evil actions. وَلَوْلَا فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ وَرَحْمَتُهُ مَا زَكَى مِنْكُمْ مِنْ أَحَدٍ أَبَدًا. That if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's blessing wasn't upon you, and if His mercy wasn't there for you, nobody ever would have been able to purify themselves. Right? So it's only through Allah's blessing and His mercy that we are able to purify ourselves. وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يُزَكِّي مَنْ يَشَاءُ. But rather Allah purifies whomever He wills. Right? So now over here we have to will ourselves to be on the path, and then Allah's mercy will come, inshallah, and take us and save us from shaitan and make us successful. Wallahu sami'un alim. And Allah is the hearing and He knows. Or for example, in Surah 43, verse 36, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَنْ يَعْشُ عَنْ ذِكْرِ الرَّحْمَنِ نُقَيِّدْ لَهُ شَيْطَانٍ فَهُوَ لَهُ قَرِينٌ. That whoever blinds himself from the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whoever forgets Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appoints for him a shaitan. And that shaitan is, qareen, he's, attached to this person, he's close to that person. So basically this person goes under the influence of shaitan, right? Why does this happen? Because of forgetting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Forgetting that there is, a day of judgment. Forgetting that there is a path, there is the Sharia, there is a religion that Allah has sent. Forgetting that I am here and I'm supposed to be doing something. I'm here for a purpose. Okay? Forgetting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, makes shaitan have control over us. So now this forgetting is not just, remembering Allah on the tasbih, right? It's not, we remember Allah not just through, the tasbih that we recite or the salah that we pray. Yes, that is one way of remembering Allah. But rather, another way, and maybe a very important way of remembering Allah, is in our actions. That now that I'm going in my day-to-day life, I make sure that I remember Allah. The actions that I'm doing, am I doing what Allah wants, or am I doing what Allah doesn't want? Okay, so that is also dhikr of Allah. That is also remembrance of Allah. Basically, remembering Allah will be bringing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our life. Okay. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So now, just to kind of conclude the different ways, that we talked about of staying away from shaitan and safe from his tricks. Number one is that the thoughts that he puts in our minds, we don't follow those thoughts. Okay, we watch out for him. We try our best. That if he's inciting us towards something that is a sin, we don't go towards it. Okay. Number two is we have this quality of taqwa within us. We have this quality of God-wariness. In our actions, we are such that we don't go towards sin. Okay. Number three is remembrance of Allah. We just talked about this. Remembrance of Allah in our, with our tongues. Remembrance of Allah in our actions. And remembrance of Allah in our hearts as well. Right. So that is remembrance of Allah. Number four, which we didn't discuss so far, but it's remembrance of death. Remembrance of the hereafter. Right. We are told that when we remember our death, when we remember the hereafter, when we go to the graveyard, okay, basically it helps us stay away from the desires of this world. Okay, we remember that, okay, this desire, this sin that shaitan is calling me towards, what is it really? Like, it's meaningless. I'll do this thing, it'll go away, right? And it'll cause me immense regret on the day of judgment, right? And the day of judgment is forever. I have to, bear the burden of, or bear the difficulty of following upon the Sharia, staying away from all the sins. I have to bear that just for a little bit, a few years. Okay, we're alive for maybe 70, 80, 90 years, a little bit more, perhaps less, we don't know, right? So this pleasure that I'm going to have, it's, very, very meaningless compared to the life that awaits me, compared to the death that is coming for sure to me. Okay, so now remembering death, remembering the hereafter, it also helps us stay away from shaitan. And then the last one was seeking protection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That to know that, I cannot succeed in this, but really I cannot succeed in anything without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So if there's any success that comes to me in any affair of my life, especially in the affair that is the most important affair of my life, which is reaching Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, purifying my own self, I cannot do this without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's one more verse that I want to look at. So this is Surah An-Nisa, the 4th surah, verse 83, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَوْلَا فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ وَرَحْمَتُهُ لَاتَّبَعْتُمُ الشَّيْطَانَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. That had it not been Allah's blessing and His mercy upon you, you would have all followed shaitan, except for a few, right? That if we are away from shaitan, if we have success in this, it's Allah's mercy. It's Allah's blessing. Okay. So now, yes, shaitan is an enemy who is a very big enemy, very difficult enemy to defeat. Okay. But it's not the case that the odds are all stacked against us. It's not the case that, I should be now hopeless. Shaitan wants to make me hopeless here as well. He wants us to think that, no matter what we do, we won't reach there. We can't do it, right? So we should know that, no, the odds are not stacked against us. It's not the case that, he has the upper hand, right? But rather, the reality is this, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the upper hand. And therefore, the believers have the upper hand, right? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the one who created everything. He is the one who controls everything. Shaitan is also a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And now, if we do our responsibility, if we seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, will save us. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So now there is a very important question here, very important concept here that deals with our worldview. So if you remember a few days ago, we talked about worldview, right? We talked about the importance of the worldview. That is the foundation of our religion. It's the foundation of our, the building of religion that we want to make. So if the worldview is weak, then the foundation is weak, and therefore the building I build on top, it will be shaky. The tree that grows, it will be fruitless, okay? So it's very, very important what kind of way we have of looking at the world. Okay. So there's a question of worldview here that comes up, and it is a very important question, okay? And the question is this, that is the world fundamentally, is it a dark and evil place, or is it is it not like that? Right? And it is a very important question because sometimes the way that we are taught religion, we're taught it in a way that, all these difficulties, there's all, the shaitan and he's coming for you, and, sometimes we scare the kids with this, right? That if you don't do this, shaitan, is doing this, you go to hell. So a lot of times we end up kind of, the view that we have of the world, the view that we have of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the view that we have of religion is that of, that only just a couple of people are going to go to heaven, right? Everyone else is, doomed, basically. No matter what we do, we're doomed, right? And then the question comes up naturally is this, that, why is this the case, right? Like, why should I even try to follow on the path if that's the case? And the reason I'm also mentioning this, and, some of you might be surprised that, okay, why am I bringing this up? Is because, in the interactions with, some of the brothers, in the questions that were asked, I felt that this was a problem. This was a question for them. That they were thinking down this line that, okay, if that is the case, if, things are so hard, if there's so many difficulties in the world, if there's all these tests, right, then why did Allah even, create us? If we were doomed to fail, why did Allah even make us? So then this is the question, that is the world that we in, is it fundamentally a dark place? Is it an evil place? Or is that not the case? Is there light? Okay. Is there good? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So fundamentally, creation, okay, it is beautiful. It is extremely beautiful, right? Because everything is a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has infinite beauty. He has infinite goodness, right? So everything in creation has that, right? So the glass then is not, when we look at the world, it's not half empty, it's half full. It's actually fully full, right? everything that comes to a believer and they see it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's good, it's beautiful. Okay. Yes, relative evil is there, people do evil things, relative bad is there, right? But to a believer, anything that comes is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore, there's good in it. And we're told in the hadith that if we have this attitude towards creation, towards the world, towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then no matter what happens in our life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put good in it as well. Right? So I think we mentioned this hadith before as well, that whoever has a good opinion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deals good with them. Right? And whoever has an evil opinion of Allah, then Allah deals with them in the same way. Right? So now if something happens in my life that is difficult for me, there's difficulty in that for me, there is stress, there is sadness, there's darkness, okay, I have to realize that it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that everything that happens is under His control, nothing happens without His will, right? And if I see it in that light, if I see it in that manner, then inshallah Allah will put good in that for me. But if I look at it this way, that, why me? Why me again? Everyone else is, free of this difficulty. Why do I always have this problem? Okay. Be it poverty, maybe it's, my job, I don't have a good enough job. Perhaps it's difficulties in my family life, right? Perhaps it's a spouse, perhaps it's a parent, perhaps it's my children. Where it's my own fault, I try to, ask Allah for forgiveness for it. Because sometimes the difficulties that come, they're all our own fault. So I try to make, amends. I try to ask Allah for forgiveness. Okay? But when it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when it's not, I'm not to blame for it, then I take it to be from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And I see that there is good in it, inshallah, for me. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So then, everything we are told in the Quran as well, right? There's different verses that say that the sun is a sign of Allah, the moon is a sign of Allah, all these different things. So everything, in a sense, because it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is a creation of Allah, it's also a sign of Allah, right? So everything, points towards Allah. It shows us something about Allah, right? It's from Allah. And therefore everything has goodness in it, right? Everything has beauty in it. Some things are more beautiful than others, that's for sure true, but everything is beautiful. And a believer is like this. A believer, through going on the path towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through purifying himself or herself, through seeing everything to be from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they reach this point where nothing really disturbs them. Nothing really makes them hopeless. Nothing really makes them question Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nothing really makes them think bad of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So that is what a believer is like. And there's one verse in the Quran that inshallah I want to mention which kind of points towards this. So this is Surah number 7, verse 32. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْ مَنْ حَرَّمَ زِينَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي أَخْرَجَ لِعِبَادِهِ وَالطَّيِّبَاتِ مِنَ الرِّزْقِ. Say, O Prophet, who has forbidden the beautiful things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken out for His servants, and the good things of His provision, the good things in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rizq. قُلْ, say, O Prophet, هِيَ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. Say to the believers that these things, the good things of this life, are for the people, or are for the believers in this life of this world, right? So the beautiful things in this world are for the believers, right? So it's not the case that, these things are not for us. خَالِصَةً يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. But on the Day of Judgment, the good things are only for the believers, right? So in this world, the believers have good things, and the disbelievers also have good things. The good people have, things of this world, the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, but so do the bad people, right? Fir'aun had, so much wealth and so many blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, okay? But on the day of judgment, in the next world, only the believers will have the good things, right? Only the true believers will have that. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So now let us take our hearts to Karbala. We are told that there's a very specific, sentence spoken by Lady Zainab that is, difficult to understand. It's a very surprising statement as well. But it's in line with what we have been talking about. That whatever comes to us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's good, right? So then, after everything that had happened, after, seeing all her family killed, right? After seeing her brother killed, after they were taken prisoners, children were killed, tents were burned, after all of that, after the hijab's been taken away, now the qafila is taken to the court of Ibn Ziyad. Okay? And over here, Ibn Ziyad, he wants to, kind of debase the Ahl al-Bayt, kind of make them the losers, basically, right? So he asks, Lady Zainab, he asks her, how do you see what Allah did to your family? Right? Basically saying that whatever happened over here, Allah did that to you, and how do you see it? And I think he was probably expecting her to break down, right? Think about all of her family members being killed, think about all of these difficulties. Okay? And this is what Lady Zainab says, مَا رَأَيْتُ إِلَّا جَمِيلًا, that I did not see anything from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala except beauty. Right? What Allah did here, what Allah allowed to happen here to us, I did not see anything except for beauty. Right? And perhaps this makes sense based on the discussion that we've been having, that whatever comes to us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is beautiful. And she continues and she says that these people, they lived pure lives, they fought in the way of Allah, they became shaheed, they reached a high station. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will judge between you and them on the day of judgment. Okay? So whatever came to us from Allah, it was beautiful. So many difficulties came upon Lady Zainab. And it's after all these difficulties that she's saying this. And today is the day in Muharram that we remember her sons. We remember Aun and Muhammad. And we remember that, how they became shaheed. And inshallah, in the Majlis to come, that will be talked about in detail. But I want to discuss today Lady Zainab herself. Okay. She is a mother who gave up her sons. She is an aunt who gave her nephews. She is a sister whose brother was killed. And this is how she stood up. And this is how, she stood on the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Her belief was so strong that after all these musibat that came to her, she still stood steadfast. Now I want to mention one specific musibah that came upon Lady Zainab. And it's the musibah that Ayatul Jawadi, he mentioned in one of his majalis. Just to first you understand the types of difficulties that Lady Zainab went through. So we are told that when the battle of Karbala, before it happened, that Imam Hussain, he ordered that the camps be brought together, trenches be dug behind the tents, and when the war starts, fire be lit over there, so that the enemy is not able to attack us from the back, right? And a narrow passage was left open for them to go in and out, right? So now the events of Karbala have happened. Imam Hussain has been made shaheed. Lady Zainab, she is in charge of the camp now. Imam Zain al-Abdin, he is sick, he can't take charge. Now she has to protect all the Ahl al-Bayt, all the women, all the children. Now she asks Imam Zain al-Abdin, they are coming, they're going to burn the tents. What should we do? Should we stay in? Should we stay out? Imam says, no, we have to go out, we have to save our lives. But how is she supposed to go out? How are the children supposed to leave these tents? And the back, there are trenches. There's only this path in front, and the enemy is coming from the path. They're coming with fire, they're coming with their swords. So just see how difficult this is for her. She wants to save everyone, she wants to save the children, she wants to protect them. But how are they going to flee? And they come and they burn the tents, and I'm not sure how many people are trampled. I'm not sure how many kids are lost in just this process. But this is the difficulty that Lady Zainab has to bear. ألا لعنة الله على الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إن لله وإنا إليه راجعون. صلوات.